The night was cold and quiet on Outpost Vega 9, a small colony on the edge of human space. Metal towers rose like black fingers into a purple sky. The air smelled of smoke and ozone. Somewhere below, hidden between the narrow streets and old neon lights, Ethan Cole waited. He was not an ordinary man. Ethan was an undercover Earth cop, sent to this alien colony to hunt smugglers and rebels who sold illegal tech. For months he had worn a fake name and lived among the criminals. He had eaten their strange food, traded lies for trust, and waited for the right night. Tonight was that night. Through his small visor, he saw the warehouse. Dim lights flickering inside, shadows moving fast. He whispered into his earpiece, "Target in sight." But no one answered. His comms were jammed. That meant only one thing. Whoever was inside didn't want to be found. Ethan drew his plasma pistol and walked in. The metal door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, glowing purple mist floated in the air. Strange glass tubes lined the walls, each filled with shimmering liquid. And in the center of the room stood a young alien girl, her skin a soft shade of violet, her eyes glowing faintly like twin moons. She looked fragile, almost human, but there was something sharp and powerful in her stare. She froze when she saw him. "Don't move," Ethan said, aiming the gun. "You're under arrest." The girl's lips trembled. She raised her hand slowly. Please don't shoot." Her voice was soft, musical, and trembling. Ethan stepped closer. "Name?" "Lyra," she whispered. "My name is Lyra." He scanned the room, no other signs of life. Just her and those strange glass tubes. "Where's the rest of your group?" he asked, her eyes filled with tears. "They're gone. Everyone's gone, please. You don't understand." "I'm not the one you want," he frowned. "Then who do I want?" Lyra took a shaky step forward, her voice breaking. "My sister. She's the one you're looking for. But she's not a criminal. Please don't arrest her." Ethan hesitated. Those words hit him harder than he expected. "Your sister?" Lyra nodded quickly. "They're hunting her. They say she's dangerous. But she's not. She's just trying to stop them." "Stop who?" he demanded. Lyra looked around nervously. "The humans. The ones running this colony, they're doing something terrible." Ethan felt his heart tighten. He had heard rumors. Secret labs, missing aliens, human officers taking orders from unknown commanders. Still, hearing it from her lips felt different. She wasn't lying. Her fear was real. Suddenly, the ground shook. The lights above flickered red. A voice blared through the speakers. "Unauthorized breach detected. All units to Sector 7. Lyra gasped. "They found us." Ethan spun toward the door. Outside, he heard the sound of heavy boots. Human soldiers. Backup had arrived, but not his. These men weren't police. They were something else. "Get down," he shouted. He grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her behind a stack of crates. Plasma fire tore through the air, burning holes in the metal walls. The room filled with smoke and noise. Lyra covered her ears, terrified. "They'll kill us both." Ethan fired back, hitting one of the soldiers through the door. "Not if I can help it." He glanced at Lyra again. Her violet skin glowed brighter now, as if light was rising from inside her. "What are you?" he asked in awe. "I can help you," she said quickly, "but you have to trust me." "Trust you?" he said, ducking another blast. "You're the one I was sent to arrest." Her eyes met his, glowing with desperation and truth. "If you don't trust me, we both die. And so will my sister." Something in her tone, the raw, trembling honesty that made him pause. For months, Ethan had chased smugglers who lied with every breath. But this girl, she wasn't lying. He took a deep breath. "Fine, show me the way out." Lyra pointed toward a narrow passage behind the tubes. "Through there!" They ran together through the tunnel as the sounds of gunfire echoed behind them. The walls were damp, the air thick with steam. Ethan's heart pounded. He had broken his orders. He had just helped an alien escape. As they reached the end of the tunnel, Lyra turned to him. "Thank you," she whispered. "But it's not over. My sister is still out there. They'll find her next." Ethan holstered his weapon. "Then we find her first." The alien girl's eyes widened. "You'll help me?" He gave a grim nod. "If what you're saying is true, then this isn't about law anymore. It's about truth." Outside, the colony lights burned red across the horizon. Distant sirens wailed through the night. The war between humans and aliens had not started yet, But Ethan Cole knew, deep down, that it would soon. And when it did, everything, his duty, his loyalty, even his humanity, and would be tested by the girl who begged him, "Please, don't arrest my sister." The night wind blew through the metal streets of Outpost Vega 9 as Ethan Cole and Lyra ran through the narrow tunnels. The sirens above still screamed, and search drones scanned the rooftops. Every shadow felt like danger waiting to strike. They stopped inside an abandoned building, its walls cracked and filled with the smell of rust. Lyra leaned against a wall, breathing fast. Her glowing purple skin dimmed to a pale lavender as her energy faded. Ethan looked around carefully. The place was old. Maybe an old miner's shelter from before humans built the colony's towers. Dust and silence filled the air. "Start talking," Ethan said, lowering his plasma pistol. "Who is your sister, and why does the government want her?" Lyra looked up, her bright eyes full of worry. "Her name is Sora," she said softly. "She's my only family left. The humans say she's dangerous, that she wants to destroy the colony. But it's not true. They're lying." Ethan frowned. "You said she's trying to stop them." "Stop them from what?" Lyra hesitated, her voice trembling. "From a project. A secret one. Humans are using alien DNA, my sister's DNA, to make something terrible." Ethan stepped closer. "What kind of project?" She looked down, her hands shaking. "I don't know everything, but I heard them call it Project Helix. It's a weapon that can control life itself." Ethan felt a chill crawl up his neck. He had heard the name Helix whispered among the smugglers, rumors of something hidden beneath the colony, something even the Earth authorities denied existed. He thought it was just a myth. Now it was standing right in front of him, in the form of a frightened alien girl. "You expect me to believe that?" he asked. "Humans making weapons out of alien blood?" Lyra met his eyes. "You saw those glass tubes in the lab, didn't you? They were filled with our cells. They used my sister for their tests. When she escaped, they called her a terrorist." Ethan didn't answer. His training told him not to trust her. But his instincts, the same instincts that had kept him alive all these years, told him she was telling the truth. He sat down on a crate. "Where is she now?" "I don't know," Lyra whispered. "She went into hiding 2 moons ago. She said she had to find proof of what the humans were doing before they caught her again." Ethan rubbed his face. "And you were trying to find her?" "Yes," she said. "But they found me first." Her eyes filled with tears again. "If you hadn't helped me, I'd be dead now." For a moment, there was silence. Only the low hum of machines far above. Ethan looked at the girl, at her small trembling hands and glowing eyes, and thought of the mission report waiting on his ship. His orders were clear: capture alien fugitives, return them for questioning. But none of those words mentioned innocent sisters or secret human experiments. He sighed. "All right, let's say I believe you. Where would your sister go for proof?" Lyra blinked, thinking hard. "There's an old research zone beyond the colony wall. It was shut down years ago. My sister said that's where everything started, where she was taken." Ethan stood, tightening his gloves. "Then that's where we'll start." Lyra looked shocked. "You mean, you'll help me?" He gave her a small smile. "I'm already wanted now. If I go back, they'll throw me in a cell for helping you. So yeah, I'll help you. But you do exactly what I say. Understand?" Lyra nodded quickly, a hint of hope shining in her eyes for the first time. They waited for the noise outside to fade. When the searchlights moved away, Ethan opened a side hatch and peeked out. The city looked alive with red lights and sirens. The soldiers were everywhere. "Stick close," he whispered. They slipped into the darkness, moving through old alleys and deserted streets. Lyra's bare feet made no sound, and sometimes she'd pause, touching the wall as if she could feel the energy pulsing through it. "The colony's heartbeat," she murmured once. "It's sick now." Ethan didn't ask what she meant. He just kept walking. As they neared the outer wall, the sky began to glow faintly. Not from dawn, but from the reactor towers in the distance. The air was thick with static. Suddenly, Lyra grabbed his arm. "Wait! What is it?" She pointed at the sky. A small drone hovered above, scanning the streets. Ethan quickly pulled her under a metal awning. The drone passed by, but not before its red light flickered twice. It had seen movement. "Run!" Ethan shouted. They sprinted toward the colony's edge as alarms started again. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, and suddenly the air around them shimmered. Their bodies blurred, vanishing like ghosts. Ethan looked at his own hands in shock. What did you do? I bent the light, Lyra said breathlessly. It won't last long. Just keep running. They disappeared into the shadows, escaping the colony's walls. Beyond them, the desert stretched wide and silent. In the distance, the broken towers of an old research zone stood against the glowing horizon, the place where secrets waited to be uncovered, and where Ethan would finally learn who Sora truly was. And as they walked into the unknown, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about one thing. If what Lyra said was true, then humanity wasn't fighting aliens to survive. They were creating something far worse. The next morning, the twin suns of Vega 9 rose slowly over the broken desert. The sky turned from deep violet to gold, painting the sand in strange colors. Ethan, Cole, and Lyra moved carefully through the wasteland, the colony far behind them. For the first time since the chase, there was silence. No sirens, no drones, only the whisper of hot wind and the crunch of sand under their boots. Ethan checked his tracker. We're close, he said. The old research zone should be 5 clicks ahead. Lyra shielded her glowing eyes from the sun. That's where they took Sora. I can feel it, she said softly. The air remembers her pain. Ethan gave her a confused look. The air remembers? Lyra nodded. Everything that happens leaves energy behind. My kind can feel it, Ethan didn't argue. After everything he'd seen, nothing seemed impossible anymore. They kept walking until the ground beneath them changed. The sand turned black and burned as if lightning had struck it again and again. Then from behind a hill the ruins appeared, the old research facility, half buried in dust. Broken domes. Collapsed towers, a symbol of the Earth Federation still faintly visible on the walls. Ethan raised his blaster. Stay behind me. They entered through a cracked metal door. Inside, the air was heavy and cold. Every sound echoed. Dust floated in beams of pale light coming through holes in the ceiling. Lyra's footsteps were soft. She touched the wall with her fingers. Yes, this is the place. Ethan looked around. Computers long dead, papers scattered, cables hanging like vines. He noticed scorch marks along the walls. Something violent had happened here. They moved deeper inside until they reached a large room with glass pods lining both sides. The pods were cracked and empty, filled with dried liquid that once glowed. Strange symbols were carved into the glass. Lyra's voice shook. This is where they kept her. Ethan turned on a small hollow recorder he found on the floor. Static filled the air. Then a shaky video appeared. A human scientist in a white suit speaking quickly. Experiment 47B and subject shows accelerated energy response. DNA fusion stable. Recommendation. Prepare for phase 4. Weapon activation. Then a scream cut through the recording. A female voice, sharp and terrified. Lyra gasped and dropped to her knees. That's Sora, she whispered. That's her voice. Ethan watched the rest in silence. The scientist shouted something about containment breach, then the image froze. He felt sick. They used her, he muttered. They didn't just study aliens, they turned them into weapons. Lyra looked up at him, tears glowing in her eyes. Now you see why she ran away. Why they call her dangerous. Ethan clenched his fists. They lied to all of us. Suddenly a loud clang echoed from the hallway. Both froze. Ethan pointed his gun toward the sound. Stay here, he whispered. He moved slowly toward the door, each step silent. When he peeked into the hallway, he saw a small hovering drone scanning the air. Its red eye flickered as it turned toward him. Ethan fired on one clean shot. The drone exploded, scattering sparks across the wall. Time to go, he shouted. But before they could move, a deep metallic voice echoed through the speakers above. Unauthorized life forms detected in Sector 9. Initiating purge protocol. The lights turned red. Alarms blared. The ground trembled. Lyra grabbed Ethan's hand. They're sealing the exits. They ran back the way they came, but metal shutters began closing across every hallway. Steam burst from the walls. This way, Ethan yelled, pulling her toward a stairwell. They rushed down into the lower level, darker, colder, and filled with rows of machinery humming faintly with leftover power. At the far end, they found a massive glass chamber, cracked open from the inside. Inside it, faint purple residue shimmered. Lyra stared at it, trembling. That's where Sora broke free. Ethan touched the broken glass. How long ago? 2 moons, she said quietly. She escaped, but she never came back. Ethan looked around and noticed a set of fresh footprints in the dust. Small, light, and leading deeper into the tunnels. She was here, he said. Recently, Lyra's face lit up. Then she's still alive. Ethan wasn't so sure. The prints ended suddenly near a large metal door. On the door, someone had written in alien symbols. Lyra traced them with her fingers and translated softly. They are coming for all of us. Before Ethan could ask what it meant, another explosion rocked the floor. The entire facility began to shake. Dust rained from the ceiling. They're bombing the area, Ethan said. We need to move now. Lyra's voice cracked. But what about Sora? Ethan grabbed her arm and pulled her toward a side tunnel. If she's alive, she'll need us to stay that way. They ran through smoke and collapsing metal, barely escaping as the ground split behind them. When they finally reached the surface, the entire facility was burning. From the flames, Ethan could see fragments of holograms flickering, faces of scientists, soldiers, and one unmistakable face glowing blue, Captain Rourke. His old commander. Ethan froze. His commander had been part of this. Lyra looked at him, her voice trembling. You know him? Ethan nodded slowly, his stomach turning. Yes, and if he's still running this project. He looked at the burning ruins. Then we're both in more danger than we thought. As the fire reflected in her violet eyes, Lyra whispered, Then we must find my sister before he does. Ethan tightened his grip on his weapon. We will, but next time we'll be ready for him. Above them, smoke rose into the golden sky, carrying with it the ghosts of the past and the start of a war neither human nor alien could ever escape. The sky above Vega 9 was burning red. Smoke rose from the ruins of the research zone, and the air smelled of fire and metal. Ethan, Cole, and Lyra ran through the cracked desert, their shadows long in the dying light. Behind them, drones circled like vultures, scanning for heat signatures. Every few minutes, explosions echoed in the distance. The Earth forces were erasing evidence, destroying every secret that had been hidden in that lab. Ethan stopped for a moment, panting hard. They're not just covering up experiments, he said. They're cleaning house. Anyone who knows the truth dies. Lyra's glowing eyes were wide with fear. Then my sister is next, she whispered. Not if we get to her first, Ethan said, pulling her forward. They ran until the desert turned into old ruins, broken towers from before the colony expansion. It was dark now, and lightning flashed across the purple sky. Ethan led her into a narrow structure that looked like an old transport station. The roof was half collapsed, but it gave them cover. Lyra sat down, trembling. They knew we were coming, she said. Someone must have told them. Ethan nodded grimly. Rourke, my old commander. He's behind this. She looked at him, confused. Your commander? Why would your own people do this? Ethan sat across from her, eyes cold. Because power makes monsters. They think if they can control alien energy, they can rule every system. You and your sister. You're proof they succeeded, at least once. Lyra hugged her knees. Sora never wanted to fight. She only wanted peace between humans and our kind. Her voice broke. But they used her like a machine. Ethan looked away. He remembered her sister's voice from the recording, the scream of someone being hurt in the name of science. It haunted him. Suddenly, the faint hum of engines filled the air. Ethan's instincts kicked in. Get down! A search drone hovered outside the broken wall, its red scanner sweeping across the room. Ethan raised his pistol, but Lyra stopped him. Wait! If you shoot, more will come. She closed her eyes, her hands glowing softly. A shimmer spread through the air like rippling water. The drone's scanner passed right over them, but instead of seeing 2 fugitives, it saw nothing. The drone paused, beeped once, then turned away. Ethan stared at her in awe. You did that? Lyra nodded weakly. It's a shield of light. I can bend reflections for a few seconds, but it takes energy. You saved us again, he said quietly. She smiled faintly. I only learned it because of Sora. She said light hides truth, but it can also protect it. Ethan helped her stand. Then let's move before the truth finds us first. They traveled through the night, crossing valleys of metal debris and ancient stone. The colony lights in the distance grew smaller until they disappeared completely. As dawn began to rise, they reached a hidden ridge overlooking a vast canyon. Below them, buried deep in the cliffs, was a hidden city of alien design, glowing faintly with blue light. Lyra gasped. The refuge. It still exists, Ethan looked at her. What is this place? It's where my people hid before humans came, she said softly. Sora said if anything ever happened to her, I should come here. They climbed down carefully. The air grew cooler and faint hums of ancient machinery filled the tunnels. Inside, the walls were carved with symbols, stories of peace, friendship, and then betrayal. Ethan ran his hand along one carving showing humans shaking hands with purple-skinned aliens. Then the next image showed fire, cages, and war. It's all here, Ethan said. Your people knew this would happen. Lyra didn't answer. She walked toward a small platform at the center of the chamber. A console flickered to life as she approached, reacting to her touch. A hologram appeared, Sora's face pale and weak but alive. If you're seeing this, the hologram said, I'm still running. They took everything from us, but I will not let them finish Project Helix. Ethan Cole, if you're with her, I trust you now. Help her. Stop Rourke before he uses the core. The message ended, leaving silence. Ethan stared at the empty air. She knew my name, he said slowly. Lyra smiled sadly. Sora always saw more than others. She said one day a human would save us, not destroy us. Before Ethan could speak, the ground began to shake. The ancient walls trembled. Outside, a swarm of drones descended from the cliffs, red lights flashing like a storm of eyes. The sound of engines thundered across the canyon. They found us, Ethan shouted. Lyra's eyes glowed fiercely. Then we fight! Ethan drew his weapon. Together they stood at the mouth of the cave as the first drones fired plasma bolts. The blasts tore through the rocks, but Lyra raised her hands. A wall of light exploded before them, bending the attacks away like mirrors. Ethan fired through the shield, hitting drones one by one. Keep it up. I can't. Hold it forever, she cried. Rocks began falling. The cliff shook harder. Ethan grabbed her arm. We have to go. They sprinted deeper into the canyon as explosions followed them. One last blast threw them to the ground. Dust and light filled the air. When Ethan opened his eyes, he saw Lyra beside him, her energy nearly gone. But ahead, through the smoke, he saw a shadowy figure watching them from the cliffs, tall, human, armored, and holding a familiar insignia. Captain Rourke. Ethan's heart froze. His old commander had found them. Rourke's voice echoed across the canyon. Cole, you've gone too far. Turn over the alien and I might let you live. Ethan stood up, gripping his pistol. You'll have to kill me first. Rourke smiled coldly. Oh, I plan to. The drone circled again. The canyon was surrounded. There was no way out, not yet. But Ethan wasn't going to stop running. Not until he knew the truth. And as the first blast hit the ground beside them, the chase began again, faster, louder, and deadlier than before. The canyon burned behind them as Ethan Cole and Lyra fled into the maze of glowing tunnels. The air was thick with dust and heat, and the sound of drones echoed like distant thunder. Every step felt heavier. Every breath tasted of smoke. At last, they reached a narrow passage that led deep underground. The walls pulsed with faint violet light, alive with alien energy. Lyra touched one of the walls, and the glow responded to her fingertips like ripples in water. Ethan looked around, his weapon ready. Where does this lead? Lyra's voice was soft. To her, he frowned. Sora, Lyra nodded. This place, it's connected to her. I can feel her heartbeat. Ethan hesitated but followed her deeper. The path sloped down until the tunnel opened into a massive cavern. At its center stood a crystal pillar surrounded by ancient machines still humming with energy. And there, kneeling beside it, one was Sora. Her skin was paler than Lyra's, her violet glow dim, her hair silver like starlight. Thin tubes of energy wrapped around her arms, connecting her body to the pillar. Lyra gasped and ran forward. Sora. Sora turned weakly, her eyes lighting up. Lyra, you made it. Her voice was soft but carried strange power, like wind through glass. Ethan followed, his guard still raised. We've been looking for you. Sora smiled faintly. I know. I saw you coming, through the network of light. The planet itself whispers when danger moves. Ethan looked confused. You can hear the planet? Sora nodded slowly. They changed me, Ethan Cole. When they took my blood, when they rebuilt my cells. They made me something between human and alien. I became part of this world. Lyra took her sister's hand, tears falling. They hurt you. They called you a weapon. Sora's voice broke. They wanted to control life. To build soldiers who could heal, move light, bend energy. I was the first success. But I escaped before they could finish. Ethan's stomach turned. Project Helix. Yes, Sora said. It's real. And worse than you think. The humans built a power core under the colony. It feeds on living energy. My DNA was the key. The core is unstable now. If it breaks, Vega 9 will burn. Ethan stared at her. So we shut it down. Sora looked away. It's not that simple. The only way to stop the core is from inside. And only someone with my energy can survive long enough to reach it. Lyra's voice rose in panic. No, you can't do that. Sora smiled sadly. Little sister, I was born in pain. But if I die stopping that machine, maybe no one else has to suffer like we did. Ethan stepped forward. There has to be another way. Sora met his eyes. You're a soldier, Ethan. You know sometimes there isn't. Her gaze was calm, not afraid, not angry, only peaceful. She had already accepted her fate. But before anyone could speak again, a sharp metallic noise cut through the air. From the tunnel behind them came footsteps. Heavy, confident, human. Captain Rourke entered, surrounded by armored troops. His visor reflected the purple glow. Touching reunion, he said coldly. But it ends here. Ethan raised his pistol. Rourke, listen to me. The project is unstable. You'll destroy the colony, Rourke smirked. That's the point, Cole. Once the core ignites, Earth will rebuild it stronger. Think of it, an energy weapon powered by alien life. The future of humanity. That's not the future, Ethan snapped. That's genocide. Rourke motioned to his soldiers. Kill them! Blaster fire filled the cavern. Ethan ducked behind a console, returning shots. Lyra threw up a barrier of light, but it flickered weakly. She was too tired. Sora stood, disconnecting herself from the crystal. The energy cable snapped and hissed. Her body shone brighter, her hair floating as if caught in invisible wind. Sora, don't! Lyra cried. Sora ignored her. She spread her hands and a shockwave of light burst from her body, sending soldiers flying. Rourke shielded his face, shouting orders. Ethan stared in disbelief. She's controlling the energy. Sora's voice echoed through the chamber. You used my blood to make a weapon. Now I'll use it to end yours. Rourke aimed his blaster and fired, hitting her shoulder. She staggered but didn't fall. Instead, she turned her palms toward the ceiling. The crystal pillar exploded into light, revealing a glowing path upward, straight toward the colony's reactor core. She looked at Ethan and Lyra one last time. When the light fades, run. Don't look back, Lyra screamed. No! I won't lose you again! Sora smiled through her tears. You'll never lose me, Lyra. I am the light now. Then she stepped into the beam, her body dissolving into pure energy. The whole cavern began to shake, the walls cracking, machines bursting with sparks. Ethan grabbed Lyra, pulling her toward the exit. We have to go. Lyra fought to break free, sobbing. Sora! The beam above roared like thunder, and Sora's voice whispered one last time through the air. Tell them the truth. Then, with a blinding flash, the chamber exploded. Ethan and Lyra barely escaped through a side tunnel, tumbling into the sand outside. Behind them, the ground split open and a column of violet light rose into the sky, silent, beautiful, and terrible. Lyra fell to her knees, crying as the glow faded. Ethan stood beside her, eyes filled with sorrow. He whispered, She stopped the project, but at the cost of herself. Lyra looked up at the fading light. No, she said softly. She didn't die. She became the truth. Above them, the dawn sky shimmered, and for one fleeting moment it glowed purple. The explosion had turned the desert sky into fire. For hours, violet light had burned above Vega 9 like a second sun, then slowly faded into gray smoke. The land was quiet again, too quiet. Ethan, Cole, and Lyra stumbled across the blackened sand, coughing from the dust. Every bone in their bodies ached, but somehow, they were still alive. Behind them, the ruins of the research tunnels glowed faintly, pulsing like a dying heart. Lyra fell to her knees, her hands digging into the ash. She's gone, she whispered. Sora's gone. Ethan knelt beside her. His voice was low, rough with guilt. She saved the colony. She stopped the core. But she shouldn't have had to die, Lyra said, tears streaking down her violet cheeks. She only wanted peace. Ethan looked toward the horizon, where the colony towers still shone like cold blades of steel. We're not done yet. Rourke's still alive. Lyra wiped her tears. Her glow dimmed, replaced by something darker, determination. Then we finish what Sora started. They moved under the cover of night, crossing the silent outskirts until they reached the colony walls. Alarms had stopped, but patrol lights swept across the perimeter. The humans thought the danger was over. Ethan hacked into a side gate, bypassing the scanners. His fingers trembled. The security codes were the same ones he'd used as a soldier. The system still recognized his ID. Still loyal, he muttered bitterly. The gate opened with a hiss. They slipped inside. The colony streets were empty, only broken glass and drifting dust. The citizens had been evacuated after the reactor scare. Lyra walked beside him silently, her glowing eyes reflecting the neon signs. She looked so small, yet her steps were steady. "Where will we find him?" she asked. Ethan clenched his jaw. "Command tower. That's where Rourke would go to control the broadcast. He'll use this to twist the truth, make Sora look like the enemy again." Lyra's fists tightened. "Then we tell everyone the truth before he does." They reached the command tower near midnight. It rose high above the colony, its top half covered in smoke from the earlier blast. As they entered, the halls were empty, only the hum of machines and flickering lights. Ethan moved cautiously, blaster ready. "Stay close," Lyra followed, her glow faint like a candle. Her heart raced, and she could still feel Sora's energy somewhere in the air, faint but alive in the world around her. They reached the control room. The large holoscreen displayed Rourke's face, live broadcast. "Citizens of Vega 9, Rourke's voice boomed. "The alien threat has been neutralized. Our victory came at a cost, but humanity stands strong. The rebellion ends tonight." Ethan's blood boiled. He slammed his fist against the console. "He's lying to them." Lyra looked at the glowing microphone beside the screen. "Then we tell them what really happened." Ethan nodded. "Do it." She pressed her hand against the control panel. Her energy fused with the machine, sending a surge of light through the circuits. The broadcast flickered, and then her voice filled every speaker in the colony. "This is Lyra, you've been lied to. My sister Sora did not destroy your colony, she saved it. The humans who made Project Helix used our blood to build weapons, not peace." Citizens across Vega 9 looked up as the purple light spread across every screen. For the first time they heard the truth, but the moment didn't last. A blast of plasma shattered the door. Ethan turned just in time to see Captain Rourke step in, gun raised, armor cracked, but his eyes cold as steel. "Cole," he said quietly, "you should have stayed dead." Ethan aimed his blaster. "You betrayed everything we swore to protect." Rourke smirked. "No, I protected humanity from extinction. These creatures were tools. You got too close, forgot which side you're on." Lyra stepped forward, fire in her voice. "You're the reason my sister died." Rourke sneered. "Your sister was a lab rat. Her death was useful. That was the last straw." Ethan fired first. Plasma bolts filled the air. Rourke dove behind a console and returned fire. The room erupted into chaos, and sparks, smoke, and light everywhere. Lyra tried to shield them, but her strength was fading. A bolt hit her shoulder and she cried out, collapsing to the floor. "Lyra!" Ethan shouted, crawling to her side. Rourke stepped forward, his gun aimed straight at them. "You should have never trusted an alien, Cole." Ethan stood, his weapon shaking but steady. "Maybe not all humans deserve to survive," he fired. The blast hit Rourke's chest plate, sending him crashing into the control panel. Electricity arced through his armor. Rourke screamed as the circuits burned out. Then everything went dark. The lights, the screens, the power. Only silence remained. Ethan stumbled to Lyra and pulled her close. Her breathing was weak, her glow fading. "Stay with me," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "Don't worry. I can still hear her." Sora's light. It's everywhere now. Outside, through the shattered glass. The colony's sky began to shimmer faintly purple. Not fire this time, but calm. Gentle light spreading through the clouds. Ethan looked down at the dying commander, then at Lyra. "It's over," he said quietly. "The truth will live now." But deep inside, he knew something else was coming. The humans would not forgive him, and the aliens would not forget. This was not the end. It was only the moment before the storm. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering, "Sora's watching." Ethan held her hand tightly as the purple glow filled the tower. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like a soldier or a traitor. He just felt human. And far above them, in the quiet stars of Vega 9, something flickered. A pulse of light, soft and familiar. Sora's light. The colony of Vega 9 was quiet again, but it was the kind of silence that follows after a storm. The smoke had settled, the fires had gone out, and the violet glow that once burned across the sky now drifted gently like dust in sunlight. Inside the half-ruined command tower, Ethan Cole sat beside Lyra, who rested weakly against a shattered console. Her shoulder wound glowed faintly where alien energy mixed with human blood. "Easy," Ethan whispered. "You're safe now." Lyra gave a faint smile. "Safe? You still believe that?" Her voice was tired but soft. "They'll come again. Humans never stop when they want something." Ethan looked down, unable to argue. Around them, the control panels sparked quietly. Captain Rourke's lifeless body lay against the far wall, his armor cracked open like a broken machine. The man who had once been Ethan's commander, now a symbol of everything he had turned against. "We stopped him," Ethan said. "That's enough for today." Lyra closed her eyes. Sora would have said the same thing. She always believed in small victories. Ethan glanced toward the window. The purple light in the sky shimmered again, faint and soft like a heartbeat pulsing across the stars. "She's still here," he said quietly. "In the energy. Maybe even in you." Lyra smiled sadly. "She's in everything now. The planet listens when I speak. The air feels warmer." Her sacrifice woke Vega 9's soul. Ethan didn't understand it fully, but he felt it. Something in the world had changed. The machines no longer hummed with cold precision. They sounded alive. The colony felt aware. Hours passed. They hid in the tower until dawn. When the suns rose over Vega 9, Ethan could see ships moving in the far sky. Earth Federation cruisers. Reinforcements. "They'll find us soon," he said. Lyra stood slowly, wincing from pain. "Then we tell them the truth." Ethan looked at her, surprised. "You think they'll listen?" "They have to," she said simply. "If we run forever, nothing changes." Ethan watched her glowing eyes and am full of quiet courage. She wasn't afraid anymore. Maybe she never had been. He nodded. "Then let's end this the right way." They climbed to the tower's roof. The wind was strong, carrying the scent of metal and burnt sand. Ethan connected a transmitter from the broken console to the main antenna. "This can reach the entire fleet," he said. "Once we start, there's no going back." Lyra placed her hand over his. "Then let's not look back." He powered the transmitter. A hum filled the air and blue light flickered through the antenna. Lyra stepped forward, her hair blowing in the wind, her skin glowing brighter than ever. Her voice echoed through every channel, reaching soldiers, commanders, and citizens across Vega 9 and beyond. "Humans and aliens, you've been fighting lies. My sister Sora didn't destroy your colony. She gave her life to save it. She stopped the weapon your leaders created, the one that would have ended us all." Across the city, people stopped and listened. On the cruisers, officers froze at their stations. "You fear what you don't understand," Lyra continued. "But you don't need to fear us. Sora's light lives in this world now. She proved that we can share the same sky." As her words spread, something began to change. The colony's reactors, once dark and broken, flickered back to life, but their energy glowed purple, not blue. The machines hummed softly, harmonizing with her voice. Ethan watched in awe. "You're syncing with the colony," he said. "You're part of it now." Lyra nodded slowly. "It's Sora's gift. Her energy chose to live through me." Suddenly, a voice crackled through the comm. A Federation officer. "Identify yourself. You are broadcasting unauthorized signals." Ethan grabbed the mic. "This is Officer Ethan Cole, Earth Police Division."
"Stand down."
"Project Helix is terminated. Captain Rourke is dead. I repeat, Project Helix is terminated." There was silence on the other end, then static. Ethan sighed. "They're not sure what to believe." Lyra placed her hand on his. "Then let them see it." She turned toward the rising suns and lifted her hands. Light spread from her palms, gentle, warm, and endless. It flowed across the tower, down the streets, through every machine, every building, every living thing. The air shimmered as if the planet itself was breathing again. On the ships above, sensors went wild. Pilots reported strange readings. Radiation levels dropping, power stabilizing, life support improving. It was as if Vega 9 had healed overnight. Ethan stood beside her, shielding his eyes from the glow. "Lyra, you're—" She smiled faintly. "Don't worry. I'm not dying like Sora. I'm living for her." He reached for her hand. "You don't have to do this alone." Lyra looked at him with warmth. "You already helped more than anyone. You gave up your world for ours. That's what makes you human, and that's what makes us alike." The light surrounded them both. For a moment, Ethan felt weightless and as if time had stopped. The wind grew calm. The sky, once dark and scarred, shone bright violet and gold together. When the glow finally faded, the world was quiet. The ships in the sky withdrew slowly, unsure but no longer attacking. The colony system stabilized, and at the heart of it all, the two of them stood together watching the new dawn. Lyra turned to him, her voice soft as the breeze. Sora's dream was freedom, not just for aliens but for everyone. Ethan smiled. "Then let's build it." As the suns rose higher, their light reflected off the rebuilt towers, purple and gold mixing like two worlds finally sharing one sky. Vega 9 was free, and in that freedom, Sora's light still shimmered, unseen but eternal, the spark of peace that had started with one girl's desperate plea. "Don't arrest my sister."